When Doom released in 2016, many were skeptical that it would be any good. As a franchise, Doom had slipped from its once legendary heights, and leading up to the game's release, Bethesda denied early review codes to the press, a move often reserved for when publishers expect low review scores. But to the delight of everyone, Doom 2016 delivered over-the-top combat and rewarding exploration, along with smart mechanics and incredibly tight controls. In other words, Doom was back. Now, Doom Eternal is on the horizon, and after getting delayed until March 20th of next year on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and indefinitely on Switch, I considered delaying this video. But given how much we know about the game and how much is changing from Doom 2016, a preview is definitely in order. The new campaign looks to feature a ton of variety thanks to new enemies and weapons, new locations, and totally new gameplay mechanics. And when it comes to the multiplayer, well, id Software has started completely from scratch. So if you're curious about the Doomslayer's next adventure, I hope you'll join me as I look at everything we know about the gameplay of Doom Eternal. The mechanics of Doom 2016 are among the smoothest and most satisfying in the first-person shooter genre. But while it might not have been obvious at the time, they weren't perfect. Remember the crouch mechanic? If not, that's probably because it sucked. Thankfully, it's gone in Doom Eternal, and taking its place are new mechanics that fundamentally change how you move through each level. You probably already know of these, so I'll cover them quickly. First is the ability to climb. When you see certain textures on walls, you'll be able to latch on, climb up, and even jump from wall to wall. Next is the monkey bar swing. When you see a bar protruding from a wall, you can do a one-handed leap and swing maneuver that enables you to reach far-off platforms or just extend your hang time as you evade and target enemies. The third, and I think most impactful new maneuver, is the dash. You can scoot along the ground or dash in midair, giving you a new way to dodge attacks and yet another way to extend your range through the air. The dash does have a cooldown timer, but you can use it not once, but twice when it's fully charged. If you played Doom 2016, it's easy to imagine how these abilities, especially when combined, will make for battles that are faster and more vertical, not to mention levels that are more open and hopefully more fun to explore. Of course, if you follow Doom Eternal, you know there's one more movement mechanic that I haven't mentioned, but it comes attached to your super shotgun. So without further ado, let's meet your new favorite hand cannon, not to mention all the other new members of your not-so-friendly family of firearms. So you might be asking yourself, how do you top climbing and dashing, not to mention a frickin' monkey bar swing? Well, you attach a razor-sharp grappling hook to the end of your double-barreled shotgun. That's how. In Doom Eternal, the super shotgun has what's called a meat hook. It's a grappling hook, but to keep things focused on combat and to keep traversal from becoming too easy, the meat hook will only latch on to enemies. And when you land a hit, it pulls you in for a more intimate encounter. And it has uses beyond the obvious. For example, you can hook an enemy in the air, pull yourself in, then use that enemy as a mid-air launching pad. Of course, the super shotgun isn't the only returning weapon to get an overhaul. The combat shotgun now has an alternate mode that basically turns it into a chain gun, and its other alt mode, the explosive shot, is back, but now shoots sticky grenades and can fire multiple shots before recharging. Next is the actual chain gun, which now fires what look like plasma bullets. Plus, it doesn't need any time to warm up, making it safer to use in crowded arenas. Moving on, the heavy assault rifle is now called the heavy cannon. Judging by this footage, not to mention the gun's name, it looks to fire more powerful rounds, but at a slower rate. The scope mod also seems to handle much more like a sniper rifle, now firing just one shot at a time. Next, we know that the rocket launcher is more powerful, but it holds less ammo and rockets move slower through the air. Finally, the plasma rifle is getting quite the update. From what I can tell, it now makes weaker enemies explode, and it has the ability to heat up and destroy enemy shields. We've also seen a glimpse of this Ghostbusters-like stream of energy, which is probably a new alternate fire mode. It's also worth noting that the plasma rifle got redesigned to look like the plasma rifle from the original Doom. In fact, many enemies and pickups in Doom Eternal got a similar treatment, making this game even more in step with Doom's original aesthetic. Getting back to your arsenal, you might be curious about the Doomslayer's brand new weapons. The first one we got to see is called the Ballista, a railgun that looks like it's replacing the Gauss cannon. It fires a devastating bolt of energy, and in an interview with Easy Allies, creative director on Doom Eternal, Hugo Martin, said that one of the mods for this gun, called the Destroyer Blade, will literally let you chop demons in half. One completely new and totally unique weapon is the Crucible. Of course, we saw a different Crucible in the story of Doom 2016, but it was just a plot device, not a usable weapon. As for this Crucible, we don't know exactly how a sword is going to translate to Doom's style of combat, but it's cool to see that it is clearly trying to add some variety. Unlike the Crucible, one new weapon that we know a ton about is the shoulder-mounted launcher, which does several things. First, you can use it to launch equipment without using your hands. That means you can now toss grenades while still firing your weapon. Even cooler is that the launcher has a flamethrower, and when you kill a demon after setting it on fire, they'll drop armor shards. This is similar to how glory kills cause enemies to drop health, or how killing them with your chainsaw causes them to drop ammo. So you've now got quick ways to farm all resources in Doom Eternal, which is a big part of the gameplay loop. If you're low on health, ammo, or armor, the best solution might not be to run away, but to take what you need from nearby enemies. One last addition to the Doomslayer's war chest is his arm blade. As you'd imagine, it's used to perform glory kills, but it looks like it might also make your melee attacks more powerful. As far as managing your arsenal, Doom Eternal features a new color-coded weapon wheel. If a gun is highlighted in red, that indicates that it's out of ammo. The other colors indicate the type of ammo that weapon uses, and ammo pickups will match that corresponding color. For example, purple indicates plasma. The idea is to help you quickly identify which pickups you need when you see them in a heated battle. Also, keep in mind that the entire UI design was described at QuakeCon 2019 as being outdated, so the design will likely change. Furthermore, the devs have said that Doom Eternal will feature plenty of options to customize the UI, so if you're not into the bright colors, it sounds like you might be able to change them. The very last weapon I want to cover won't appear in your weapon wheel, nor is it attached to your armor. Instead, it's a rune ability called Blood Punch. In Doom 2016, runes would enhance the abilities you already had. But in Doom Eternal, it looks like they can give you entirely new abilities, and Blood Punch allows you to kill an enemy in just one, well, punch. You do have to recharge it by performing glory kills, but that's probably a good thing for an ability this powerful. Okay, that's all for weapons and combat abilities. Let's now look at the enemies they'll help destroy. From what I can tell, most of the demons from Doom 2016 are returning in Doom Eternal, but as you'd expect, many are entirely new. First up is the Doom Hunter. These guys are massive, and despite their size, they're able to hover around as they deliver damage via their back-mounted rocket launcher, this glowing chainsaw thing, and what looks to be a flamethrower. Given the Doom Hunter's name, it's likely that their sole purpose is to hunt and kill, well, you. A particularly ugly enemy, even by demon standards, is the Carcass. They fire these beams of rings and spawn shields from a distance right in your face, keeping you from dealing damage and executing glory kills. Next up are Prowlers, which we actually saw in Doom 2016's multiplayer mode, but they're now part of the main campaign. Prowlers can not only fire damaging plasma blasts, they can also teleport, so expect quite a fight. One of the new lower-level foes in Doom Eternal is the Gargoyle. They're a lot like imps, but of course they can fly, so getting them in your sights should be a bit more challenging. Next are Dread Knights, which are similar to Hell Knights, but on the end of each fist they have energy blades. Hell Knights were one of the more agile demons in Doom 2016, so I'm not exactly looking forward to these guys. Another heavy enemy that I believe we last saw in Doom 64 is the Pain Elemental. Similar to Caco demons, these things are even worse because, at least in previous games, they could summon the rocket-propelled skulls known as Lost Souls. If you're still not intimidated, well, there's more, and these next 3 demons look like they're tough as nails. First is the Archvile. Judging by how he was dramatically revealed in this trailer, I'm guessing he's one tough customer. As for his weapons, we saw him attack with both fire and lightning in the multiplayer gameplay reveal, which I'll talk about at the end of this video. Another demon making his return from the Doom games of old is the Arachnotron. Not only is he one of the coolest looking demons in Doom Eternal, he can also walk on walls, and he's also got a machine gun turret above his gigantic brain. The last new enemy we've seen is the Marauder, who's got an energy axe in one hand and a super shotgun in the other. If you're into Doom lore, it has said there's a story behind why the Marauder's shotgun and armor both bear a resemblance to those used by the Doomslayer. Okay, that was a lot of new bad guys, but there are still sure to be more. Not only has id said that Doom Eternal will feature twice as many demons as seen in Doom 2016, we've also learned that part of Doom Eternal's campaign will take place in heaven. So it stands to reason that we'll be fighting angels as well as demons. Maybe that's who we see here in the story trailer. As for the demons that are returning from Doom 2016, we can expect each of those to also receive some updates. For example, the Caco demon is going to be much harder to kill, and you can now fire explosives into its mouth, which it then swallows. Now that's a spicy meatball. There are also some changes to the game itself that will affect every enemy in the game. Thanks to the new movement mechanics, which afford the Doomslayer more speed and freedom, the team at id was able to make the enemy AI much more difficult. In other words, if you don't take advantage of the double dash, the monkey bar swing, and the meat hook, you won't stand a chance. Having played the Doom Eternal demo at E3, I can tell you that it was very challenging. But to help balance the more challenging AI, you can now perform precision-based skill shots on heavy enemies to disable their primary attacks. For example, a well-placed shot will take out the turret on the Arachnotron's brain, or the cannons on the Mancubus arms. It's also been revealed that both heavy and weaker enemies will feature destructible armor and character models, so you'll get visual feedback when you deal damage. And once you do, glory kills are back and better than ever. Lastly, codex entries for enemies will now feature actual combat tips, which should help if things get tough. Of course, the codex will also help discover information and lore about the world and levels, some of which look to be totally different from anything in any Doom game before. Of the environments you'll get to explore in Doom Eternal, some look just like what you'd expect. Here we see a level that starts on Phobos and ends within the lava-soaked core of Mars. And here we get to see Hell on Earth, where one of Earth's cities has been overtaken by demons, fire, and gore. But some locations look totally different. For example, we got a glimpse of this scene here, which has been all but confirmed to show Sentinel Prime, the homeworld of the Night Sentinels, who we saw at the end of Doom 2016. But perhaps most interesting is that, as I mentioned before, it has confirmed that Doom Eternal will take players not just to Hell, but also to Heaven. Not only that, but in an interview with Shack News, Martin confirmed that you'll face off against a god. Not the god, but a god. Perhaps that's who we see here in the story trailer. This might be a good time to mention that the environments in Doom Eternal will look even better than in Doom 2016. It's being developed on the new id Tech 7 engine, which allows for greater texture fidelity and 10 times the geometric detail. id have also said that the game will be locked at 60 frames per second on all platforms except Switch, where it will run at 30. Getting back to the maps themselves, we actually know quite a bit about how the level design is changing from Doom 2016. At a macro level, it sounds like one major goal was to make the levels not only bigger and more open, but also more varied and less repetitive. At QuakeCon 2019, executive producer on Doom Eternal, Marty Stratton, said that, quote, "There's a lot of things in the game this time around that will really, again, challenge you, engage you, just change up the gameplay enough from moment to moment that you don't feel like you're just going arena, hallway, end quote. We've seen how the new movement mechanics will help with this, but the developers have also added new interactive elements to the game's levels, allowing for environmental puzzles. The first of these elements are called punch blocks, which have giant punch symbols on them and can be moved with, you guessed it, a punch. Next, if you see a big green crack on, say, a wall or a vent or some object, that means you can break through it. Lastly are switches, and when you shoot them, they trigger devices and contraptions within the environment. At QuakeCon, Martin did concede that these mechanics are simple, but he also promised that his team has devised some very clever ways to implement them. Fingers crossed. Another element that will help create more varied and challenging levels is what Martin's calling sludge. We haven't actually seen sludge, but the way it was described, it sounds like different surfaces will be covered in different colors of sludge. One color might slow you down, while the other might keep you from dashing. We also know that you'll occasionally encounter radioactive material, and just like in the original Doom games, you'll have to find the rad suit if you want to take a dip without taking damage. But not every new addition in Doom Eternal's levels are meant to make things harder. One of the coolest new features are the 1-ups scattered across each map. Snag a 1-up and your number of lives will increase in the upper left corner of the HUD. Assuming you have at least one extra life, dying no longer sends you back to the last checkpoint. Instead, you simply lose a life and instantly respawn where you were killed. And if you fall off a cliff, you quickly respawn from wherever you fell off without even losing a life. Only when you run out of 1-ups due to combat deaths will you have to wait for your game to reload. Of course, you'll have to earn your 1-ups as they're often well hidden or hard to reach. And that's just one way Doom Eternal is encouraging exploration. Remember how green cracks indicate that you can break through stuff? Well, if you find a similar crack, but in black, that means you've discovered a secret. And as for collectibles, the Doomslayer figurines in Doom 2016 have been replaced with figurines of all the demons in the game. We haven't seen any, but it sounds like they'll take on a similarly cutesy and cartoony look. Also changing is the way you obtain runes to augment your Praetor suit. In Doom 2016, you had to find a rune portal and complete a rune challenge in order to obtain and equip a rune. In Doom Eternal, rune challenges are gone. Instead, runes are hidden throughout the maps, just like other secrets and collectibles. But if you enjoyed rune challenges, not to worry. They're getting replaced by what id are calling Slayer Gates. To open a Slayer Gate, you'll have to find a Slayer key hidden somewhere nearby. Beyond the Slayer Gate, you'll find a golden gore nest, which will provide a very difficult combat challenge that will reward you handsomely when completed. As for regular gore nests, it sounds like they're optional in Doom Eternal. Also, the official Doom Twitter account did tweet this concept art of something else. It's apparently called a Super Gore Nest, and we actually got to see it in the Hell on Earth level from the gameplay demo here. Since it's literally the size of a building, my guess is that the entire point of this level might be to destroy the Super Gore Nest once and for all. All in all, the environments in Doom Eternal look awesome, but how will you find your way around them? Well, the auto map is back, and it's getting some upgrades. First, Doom Eternal is introducing the demonic corruption meter in the top right of the HUD. Based on the QuakeCon gameplay demo and several interviews given by Martin and Stratton, here's my best estimate for how it works. Each color-coded section corresponds to a group of enemies somewhere on the map. As you clear areas, the corresponding section of the corruption meter turns green. And here's where I'm doing some guesswork, but I think the corresponding section of the map then also turns green. If so, this would not only give you a quick way to know when you've cleared the map, but it could also help locate secret areas that contain secret combat encounters. Once you've located combat encounters, they're marked on your map with these red swords, and it looks like even basic enemies are marked by smaller red dots. Lastly, judging by the rune icon above, it looks like we'll also be able to see other collectibles on the map, just like in Doom 2016. The final environment I want to mention is by far the one we know the least about. It was recently revealed that Doom Eternal will feature a hub world, and it's here that we'll somehow learn more about the Doomslayer himself. Beyond that, we don't know if this hub will act as a portal to different levels, or if it's just a place to catch your breath or maybe view the collectibles you've managed to find. In any case, it's one of the most mysterious parts about the entire game. All told, when you combine the new environments, the new movement mechanics, the new enemies, the new weapons, and the revamped collectible system, it looks like the campaign of Doom Eternal aims to keep intact what made Doom 2016 so great, while experimenting with some additions that make things more engaging, varied, and intuitive. But that's just the campaign. One area that was totally rebuilt from the ground up is the multiplayer. Let's take a look. With Doom 2016, id Software outsourced the development of the game's snap map mode. Unfortunately, the experience didn't quite measure up to the single-player campaign, so with Doom Eternal, they decided to do everything in-house. This resulted in two entirely new multiplayer components. First is Invasion, which is an optional mechanic within the single-player campaign that allows for other players to invade your game as demons. Or if you'd rather do the invading, you can do that too. Unfortunately, it announced that this feature is now going to come in the form of a free update sometime after the game's release in March. As for the bulk of the multiplayer, we're getting an entirely new experience called Battle Mode, where players duke it out in asymmetric 2v1 battles on custom multiplayer maps. Here's how it works. You take the role of either the Doomslayer or one of two player-controlled demons. If you play as the Doomslayer, you'll automatically get all of his mods and equipment at the start of the match. Your goal is simply to kill the two demons, neither of which are quite as powerful as you. After you kill the first demon, a 20-second timer counts down. That's how long you have to kill the second demon before the first respawns with half his health. But if you do manage to kill the second demon in those 20 seconds, you win. If you choose to play as a demon, you will be underpowered compared to the Doomslayer, but thankfully you and the other demon can team up and strategize, and you only have to kill the Doomslayer once. Plus, the demons have some extra tools. First, you'll be able to spawn other AI-controlled demons to distract and damage the Doomslayer. However, you will want to be careful with this because just like in single player, the Doomslayer can harvest health, ammo, and armor from the AI demons. However, demons also have a slow charging ability that can block the Doomslayer from harvesting resources. Lastly, and I think most interesting, is demons can lay strategically placed hazards throughout the map. I'm assuming there will be different types of hazards, but the one we got to see at QuakeCon was a hazard filled with poisonous gas. Given these abilities, and given the added element of teamwork, it seems like being a demon will require more strategy than playing as the Doomslayer, and that's not to mention that there are 5 different demons to master. First is the Revenant, which to me looks to be the most fun. He's got his jetpack, plus a dash ability for quick movement. He also has his shoulder-mounted rockets, which he uses for his basic attacks, and his special attack, a laser-targeted onslaught of said rockets. Next is the Pain Elemental, which also has the ability to fly, and he has a rechargeable shield, which is handy given his slower movement. I don't know what his special attack is, but he does appear to have multiple projectiles at his disposal. The third playable demon it revealed in detail is the Mancubus, which, as you know, has 2 heavy cannons for arms, plus flamethrowers. While he is slow, he does have smoke bombs to conceal his location, but with the Doomslayer's quick movement, I'm skeptical that this will be effective. That said, the Mancubus has loads of health, making him super tanky. The last 2 demons we saw are the Archvile, who as I mentioned before can utilize both fire and lightning attacks, and the Marauder, who again has an axe and a super shotgun. So that's Battle Mode. We don't know if there will be any more traditional modes, but I do think this is a good place to mention that while it's not a multiplayer mode, it has said that the popular arcade mode that was included as a free download for Doom 2016 won't be included with Doom Eternal, at least not at launch. Given how much replay value arcade mode added to the campaign, this is a bummer, but I'd be surprised if it isn't made available at some point down the road. Stratton did say at QuakeCon that additional multiplayer maps and playable demons will be included as free downloadable content, so that gives us hope. With the absence of arcade mode as the lone exception, it seems to me that id is making all the right choices with Doom Eternal. Sure, they're taking some risks, but nothing major, and we know the mechanics will be solid. Plus, all the additions seem to be directed toward making the combat more engaging and creating levels that are more fun to explore. And those were the best parts of Doom 2016. And with that, I'm going to end this video a little differently than my others. Creating video game content full-time for people like you is a lifelong dream of mine, but I can't do it alone. If you've seen my other previews, you know that I encourage anybody who's not sure about a game to wait until it releases instead of pre-ordering. But if you think my content is worth supporting and you've made up your mind to pre-order Doom Eternal, it would help Quest Mode if you did so by clicking the link in the description of this video. But if you're just here to watch, the fact that you clicked my video and watched until the very